All right, so I guess I want to start off this video by saying, I was pissed off in this last video that I made, but actually I was correct because actually that is the most important thing in the world, even though it's pretty frustrating. But the torture that they're putting me through, I've thought about it, and clearly there is probably some kind of a reason for it. I mean, I would say more likely than not, there's a reason for it. And that's actually thinking about it pretty deeply. You know what I mean? So I would say almost 100% chance probably there's a good reason for it. Because alternatively, then what we'd be saying is that, well, they do that so that future generations will look back and say, this is how we got where we are. But even at that, then we'd be assuming that they couldn't just arrive to that point without us having to go through bad things, which I would say there is some truth in that. But at the same time, to the extent of, every step of the way, even once we're pretty advanced as, highly evolved, in other words. So I would say that it's probably we do have to go through these things. Probably there's no other way. And so, for me to express my frustration with what I'm being put through, while that is disgusting and I'm offended by it, then actually that is very, very important, because a lot of these provisions that they're trying to get people, clearly it has something to do with this regional decentralization provision, and there's nothing more important than that. So, for me to actually be in a position emotionally where I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna, talk about that while it's still fresh and it's still, just went on, not a lot of time has passed or anything like that. I'm actually just doing it. I'm not so pissed off as usual that I would have to wait. I feel like Alex Jones on here. He's like, I'm better than you. I'm smarter than you. Like laughing, like scoffing through his nose. Like he needs that. You know what I mean? Because it took me a second to say that. That's what they're making me feel like. That's what's going on. He's just on my device making me feel that. So, but anyways, some people need it. You know what I mean? Me, myself, when I see somebody else who might be smarter than me, or I think is smart, it's not like a test. It's not like a measure. Like I don't think, oh, I bet I'm smarter than them, or damn it, they're smarter than me. Those thoughts never go through my mind. You know what I mean? That's just never happens. You know what I mean? I don't seek to compare myself to other people or prove that I'm smarter than them, or I don't have anything writing on it or anything like that. A lot of people are just like that, and so. But anyway, but the point of the story is just, and I don't know why it's always coming back to Alex Jones, you know what I mean? And it's not just hearing him scoffing through his, he's basically he needs that, you know what I mean? Like they're making me hear it and feel it. Anyways, it just keeps going on like this. But anyways, man, it's basically like a feeling of he needs that because he's comparing himself to you, and then he's got to. It's something like his perception is distorted to the point where he doesn't understand that what he perceives is, oh, I'm smarter than you, and you think you're smart, but in reality, what's happening is that he doesn't think he's as smart as me. And they're making me perceive all of it. They're not just making me perceive one part of that, but actually all of it. You know what I mean? And it's just fucked up. But anyways, what I wanted to say is just, yeah, it's incredibly important, and it's just, I try to tell these people so fucking much, do not fuck with my electronic devices. Do not throw it in my face that you're surveilling me. Do not do that, because I've already told you, I really don't want to have bad things done to you. You know what I mean? It's just not on my radar. You know what I mean? It's hard for me to build myself up, especially as I continue to build this new constitution. The more I build it, the more obvious it becomes, oh, well, they're living under a broken constitution, or an inadequate constitution. The more I add to it, the more obvious that becomes, the more difficult it becomes for me to think about, oh, fuck these people. Look what they're doing to us. I'm going to fuck them over. It's just, now I could be like that. I would say that probably that's exemplary of me, to be of that mind, to have power over other humans, and then to not say, well, I seek to establish that power long term by, exacting damage and revenge and, doing damage to these people. You know what I mean? Hurting them, putting them in prison for as long as I can get away with, all this kind of stuff. That's how the average person thinks. Everybody wants. It's sick, but when people get in a position of having power over other people, and this is part of the reason why people will, react so violently to somebody outpacing them in life. You know what I mean? Like it's that need to assert dominance. You know what I mean? And I just don't. I think I'm a higher life form, honestly, and I don't think that I seek to assert dominance over other people. I don't seek to, I don't get violent when I see another person who's outpaced me in life. I don't, stalk them and, try to fuck their lives up. Women are like that just in general. I would say 99% of the time, not all of them, but such a high percentage of the time that you might as well just say all of them, because if you don't, then you'll be basically more likely than not, 9 times out of 10, 19 times out of 20, even more than that, you'll be saying, oh, she's one of the exceptions when she isn't, okay? Because none of them are the exception, okay? Pretty much none of them, all right? Almost none of them are the exception. Women in general want, it's like Pam Bondi. People are like, why is Pam Bondi getting in the way of RFK trying to, get fluoride out of water and all this kind of stuff? That's extremely successful shit. You know what I mean? That's a man achieving monumental changes in this country. You know what I mean? Massive improvements that just almost unthinkable. You know what I mean? We've been living underneath this shit for so long. For somebody to overhaul something like that it's almost miraculous. You know what I mean? And so this woman who's as well appointed by Donald Trump, she wants to get in the way of that. And then people say, why would she do that? Because she's a woman. That's why. Because she's a fucking woman. That's why. Okay? That's what pisses me off about so many of you fucking people, man. You're so fucking disgusting. You have nothing better to do than fuck with somebody and try to assert yourself and try to be better or smarter or whatever the fuck you do is fucked up. Okay? Seriously, it's fucking me up. I'm seriously pissed. Because I keep finding this shit everywhere, man. And it's seriously, I'm starting to get disgusted. My whole life has been so fucking ridiculous because of these fucking moron trash people. Seriously, find a better fucking way to fucking spend your time, you fucking ridiculous, moronic piece of fucking shit, idiot, fucking imbecile, in the fucking way, obstructionist, piece of shit, motherfucker. Okay, we have better things to do with our lives, man, than get fucked around by fucking people that have nothing to do, have nothing better to do. You know what I mean? Somebody who got beat up in high school. Somebody, especially those kinds of people, especially short people, especially people that are like blue-collar people, because they have resources and they didn't amount to shit. Women, all these fucking people are your fucking enemies if you have anything to offer this fucking planet. Okay, they're in the fucking way. And I want them out of the fucking way. I'm pissed off with your ass. Okay? I'm about to fuck some people over. I'll let you know that. This ain't a fucking game. Alright? I know you fucking people like to sit around watching my ass. They're making me feel it. That means I'm pissed. That means when I find out it was really going on, you're fucked. Okay? And I can't even express that enough. Anyways, but it's just, and I'll try to just gut through this because I'm so pissed off. I just want to keep screaming. But either fucking way, it just, because these motherfuckers are so trash, man. It's fucked, dude. You're fucked. I promise you, you're fucked. You better keep your head bald with that crazy looking goatee on, bitch. You're going to prison. That's what you need to look like. Anyways, the fucking point of the story is just, it's just, I think what I wanted to say is just, I just wanted to finish what I started earlier, which is just to say, it frustrates me that just the way they go about things, you know what I mean? Like, they wait until my wheels start turning. Like, those are critical moments where it's like, gamma waves are firing off, dopamine is flowing, all that shit is happening inside of my head. And that's why I'm starting to really believe that it's having something to do with women. You know what I mean? Like, the women getting in the way need this to say, okay. You know what I mean? Like, the women who could possibly be in the way of this somehow. You know what I mean? Of this new constitution coming into effect and all this stuff. they'll need something like this. You know what I mean? Like, no doubt about it. You know what I mean? Like, that's going on for sure. The more I think about it, the more obvious it becomes to me. That is exactly what's happening. You know what I mean? Because it makes no sense. You know what I mean? That's only a woman would act like that. Only a woman. You know what I mean? Only a woman would see you contributing something to their lives, but doing it in a way that, like, you're more powerful than a woman, really. Like, your mind can operate at a higher capacity. You can resolve things that they can't resolve. You can think about things that they can't think about. You'll achieve things in life that they can't achieve, and you'll understand things that they can't understand. But they don't understand how you think, but they understand that it's more accelerated than what they think. You know what I mean? And there's a problem there because they're never going to get over that. You know, they're never going to let you live that down. You know what I mean? It's forever going to be an issue. You know what I mean? Like, forever and ever and ever. You'll never get past that in life, period, ever. You know what I mean? That's why we don't let women, that's why the new Constitution won't let them hold office. That's why the new Constitution won't let them have any kind of power in the government at all whatsoever. Unless it's just over other women, if they can find some way to make that happen. But either way, the point of the story is just to say that, you know, as far as all that kind of stuff, they get to vote. You know what I mean? I wasn't even going to let them vote, you know, because I understand them so well, but they told me that, you know, they want them to be able to vote. So then they get to vote. At least for now, until they tell me not to let them vote, and then we can take it away from them. But I doubt that'll happen. They'll probably be able to vote, you know, because that's not the same kind of dangerous shit that I'm talking about. But, you know, it just made me realize, you know, that that obstructionist mentality, like the fact of, like, you aren't just going to achieve that. You know what I mean? Like, even though it benefits them, like, a woman would do that. You know what I mean? You know what I mean? Like, a woman would cut off her nose to spite her own face. You know what I mean? If it came to you're achieving things past what a woman can achieve. You know what I mean? They will always do that. You know what I mean? Forever and ever and ever and ever. Even if they'll burn their own shit to the ground. You know what I mean? If it means something about having power over you. I've seen it happen before. And so, but anyways, it's just, you know, it's just, I can't even keep going because this Alex Jones shit is, like, too much for me, man. Like, that's so sad, dude, that he's really is like that. Like, he really is. Alex Jones really is a Fabian communist who lives on my devices. You know what I mean? Like, I made the mistake of being too nice to him, and that'll never, like, I'll never live that down. And he actually lives on my fucking shit and throws it in my face. And, like, he actually is a CIA Stratford asset. Stratford, if you look up Stratford and the CIA and Alex Jones' relationship to that, okay, he's a CIA asset, Alex Jones. And the song Impaler by the Acacia Strain was made in response to voicemails I left on Alex Jones' voicemail. Okay? Now, in those voicemails, I repeatedly said things like, I'm on some kind of mission from God. I have no idea what the hell's going on. They've killed these people. Because there was a report on $3.3 trillion that was sent to Europe. A lot of it was sent to Europe. They had to sue through the Supreme Court just to find out what the Federal Reserve had spent and what they call them backdoor bailouts. That means the $800 billion that we knew about, $800 billion, I think it was $800 billion. It was $700 or $800 billion back in 2008. There were trillions of dollars in what they call backdoor bailouts. And $3.5 trillion of it included money that went to Europe. 16 trillion was just dispersed throughout the United States. We never fucking knew about it. You know what I mean? So I found this report on Ron Paul's website, Campaign for Liberty, on the $3.3 trillion. And I said, this is fucking crazy. I'm going to favorite this and add it to my favorites so I can watch this later. Just so I have this in my library. So I added it to my favorites. Well, I was one of only, I don't know how, I think 7 people who had favorited the video. It only got 1,000 views by the time it was taken down by Bloomberg. And so I called into Alex Jones' show. See, when I first published this to YouTube, my drug dealer died. within not a very long period of time. And then my court-appointed drug counselor, who my probation officer was making me go see because I was smoking marijuana on probation and kept getting caught, she died of an apparent quote-unquote suicide. And they both died within a couple of weeks. These are the only people I was even in contact with, period. Okay, now when I went to go see him, one of the last times I went to go see him, he looked extremely scared, like he knew something was going on. He was pale as a ghost, his eyes were darting around, his pupils were dilated, and he was scared. He was like, don't come up here unless, like he knew something was going on. You know what I mean? And it wasn't, and they claimed that that somebody killed him over an ounce of weed. That's literally what they said. 1 ounce of weed, $80 is what they claim. You know what I mean? Does that even make sense? And if it was $80, just somebody shot him in the back of the head over $80, then he was scared as shitless over that? You know what I mean? How would he have seen that coming? You know what I mean? He did see something coming. Okay? And that just lets you fucking know that he was actually being targeted and people were probably intimidating him and all this kind of stuff, letting him know that they were about to kill him or he was picking up on it somehow. For sure. Okay? And part of the reason why is because they wanted to get this person named JD in my life because they had already created this song by Slipknot, Where's Chuck D When You Need Him? They used the songs by this group called The Last 10 Seconds of Life. It had really interesting artwork. It was eye-catching. It drew my attention while I was looking at some different kind of music that was in that same genre. And it was designed to cause me to threaten JD, which I did. Just, I don't even know why. But it didn't make sense to me at the time, but I was programmed to do this. And then it talks about how you go down to, like, north of Corpus, essentially I don't know, something about you're going to end up on pills in a fucking hospital somewhere. I feel like Alex Jones, like he thinks he's arrived or something. You know what I mean? Because he's hacking my phone. He's actually a piece of shit. Anyways, and he really is. Like, he's actually a CIA piece of shit. It's like, a Fabian Commons, admittedly, he's a piece of shit. You know what I mean? And so, but either way, this is where it starts to get crazy. So, but either way, these people died. It's like, I'm just have to gut through this because I feel like I'm getting raped by Alex Jones' energy right now. Like, his feeling of being arrived and shit is just taking me it's just fucked. So, but either way. But the main thing is just, after this shit got started, then I was like, this is crazy. I'm going to call in Alex Jones and tell him this shit. You know what I mean? And then once I got started, I just couldn't stop. I'd gone to a facility called Substance Abuse Felony Punishment Facility, which I later learned reading a book by Jim Marrs called $1 Trillion Conspiracy was modeled after a Soviet brainwashing facility that causes people to commit suicide. And everything about it was modeled after that program. I didn't go along with the program and got targeted by black people, racist black people, which I've been targeted by racist black people so much it's really fucking ridiculous. But just with my business and just every professional endeavor I've ever had, like, black people will show up and try to make lies about you and fuck you over. Just period. Especially once I went past 32 years old, it was like they thought I was the most racist motherfucker they ever met. Anyways, point of the story is just, so I came out of it with severe post-traumatic stress disorder. I was probably scared. You know what I mean? I was probably scared out of my mind. Really more than I even realized. Because I didn't feel scared, but just the way I was acting didn't make any sense. And already had probably a pretty good strong dose of mania. That's just genetically like that. My dad's like that. My dad can send out multiple emails over and over again, and like, it gets a little annoying, but it's not that bad. But that's just doing shit like that, and with me, I think it's already like that. But with regard to the situation probably heightened it, and the post-traumatic stress. That's pumping cortisol. Post-traumatic stress, you're pumping cortisol through your brain at a huge rate. Especially something like that, because people were saying like, oh, you're in the fucking circle again. You know what I mean? Like, you're in the circle again, dude. This is crazy. Like, you're in it you've been in it every day for months. I didn't know it was like a Soviet brainwashing facility that I was going to wind up with severe post-traumatic stress disorder for the rest of my life and be totally ruined by it. You know what I mean? So the fact of my brain pumping out these fight or flight chemicals nonstop didn't probably help. You know what I mean? And I left so many fucking voicemails on his fucking voicemail. It didn't make any sense at all. And he was responding to it. And it bothers me because I feel like he was trying to keep up with what was going on with me. And it was probably fucking his thing up a little bit. He quit making documentaries after that. I don't think it helped. But after about a year of this, maybe not quite a year, but somewhere in that range, they put out, and I'm just calling into his show every day for a year. They created, and eventually I found in my phone, I was like, oh shit, the version that I ran through Yahoo Movie Maker or Microsoft Movie Maker blurred out the name Bloomberg. So I'm going to add that and actually upload where you can actually read the name Bloomberg. And now you can see a report on $3.3 trillion was censored. And what they did was they dismantled YouTube's most viewed. They used to have a page called Most Viewed, and it would give you like the 100 most viewed videos of the last 48 hours. And the whole thing was dismantled, and the top 2 most viewed videos were like 20,000 and 30,000, which usually is in the millions. And so the first one was in Spanish, so I started spamming the second most video with a link to my video. I'm like, look, this is why it's happening. This is why it's happening. Within 20 minutes, the second most viewed video had more views than the most viewed video. So then, therefore, I knew that it was because of what I had uploaded. This didn't happen before the Acacia Strain made their music, but afterwards. And they put out this album called Wormwood. It was Wormwood. And there was a couple songs on there. One of them was called The Hills Have Eyes, and the other was called The Impaler. The song The Hills Have Eyes is basically saying, you had a beauty queen girlfriend, then you were making $25,000 a year, then, you got really into Christianity, then you had a beauty queen girlfriend, then you were making $25,000 a year, which is how much I was making. I was 21 years old. And which is actually a lot of money for that time period. But actually it's not that much because inflation actually is resulted in what I refer to as a depressed economy, which means that even though you have inflation, the prices don't keep up because the whole economy is being destroyed. But either way, quite a good sum of money. But that was just their way of letting me know, like, we're watching you. We've been watching you for a long time. It's not just like we didn't just start watching you. It's like, we've been watching you for a long time. You know what I mean? Which didn't make sense to me for a long time. Once I started to put it together, I was about 5 years later. Before I really I think I'd kind of understood that they were making music about me, but it was kind of like I think I was in denial about it. It just didn't. It kind of made sense. I kind of grasped, that it was going on, but I kind of didn't. I was like on the fence. I was like, are they talking about me? Because I was listening to that album quite a bit. And the fact that somebody even turned me onto that album, it was somebody who I was in contact with who their family was in banking and the stock market and stuff, made quite a bit of money. His dad was one of the top people at Goodyear. How he came into my life is slightly questionable. We were sat at the same table in military school, and then I ran into him later on at a rehab. It's funny because I was into like Democrats and shit. I was thinking there's no way to fix this fucking government. I'm just going to go with the Democrats. because maybe they'll get this drug war to go away, and then I'll just be happy and not, I can just move on in life, because then I can just get high and forget about it. But I understood what the problems were. I really kind of understood it. You know what I mean? I understood it well enough. Like, I spent hours every single day watching political videos, hours and hours and hours. I actually probably spent somewhere around 12 hours a day watching political videos, reading political articles. That's all I did. You know what I mean? So it wasn't abstract for me to understand that this is what we needed to do. I just didn't think it was viable. You know what I mean? And, but I was kind of excited about it. I'd heard about Ron Paul, and I'd heard that, this is a huge movement and it's going in a good direction. But it was this same individual who turned me on to the Acacia Strain, who years earlier turned me on to Ron Paul. And he was like, I'm going with Ron Paul. It was shortly after I started talking about Democrats all the time. He was like, I'm going with Ron Paul. You know what I mean? Like I joined his campaign. You know what I mean? I joined the Ron Paul campaign. And that made me start thinking about it, because I knew enough. I had seen an article recently, a video from CNN, this new Ron Paul thing is taking off. Ron Paul spent a lot of time on television. There was a lot of people understood what Ron Paul was saying, And I wasn't by any means opposed to Ron Paul. I just didn't. A lot of people maybe are opposed to that kind of thing. They're willfully ignorant. I wasn't. I just didn't think it could work. But as soon as he said, I'm like, yeah, fuck it, man. I'm going with that too. You know what I mean? That is good. That's what I need to be thinking about. Something more pure than that. Something better. You know what I mean? Even if it can't actually happen, it's worth trying. Like, I'm young. I want to get on board with something that's about, reaching for something better. So I don't know what his exact role was in all that, but it could have been something to the effect of steering me away from something stupid, but at the same time steering me towards something intimidating. I don't think that it makes that much sense. And in all honesty, the whole thing with the Acacia Strain, just so you know, so like the song, that's basically the song The Hills Have Eyes. You know what I mean? And I began to dawn on me around the age of 32 that this song may be like, this is written about me. You know what I mean? And all this shit is about me. And it's like, damn, what? As soon as I started to realize, like, they're putting up this much effort into killing me, because they had, and I knew, like, they had already evaded 2 assassination attempts. And then I'm starting to look at this music, or at least 1 assassination attempt. And then I started looking at this music, and I was like, this is fucking crazy. You know what I mean? This song Observer by the Acacia Strain, it's 27 minutes long. I started listening to this. If you ever take the time to listen to this shit, it's so fucking insane. And once I started putting it together, this is all about me. Like, this is pure insanity. You know what I mean? Like, this is beyond belief. You know what I mean? It started thinking, damn, I'm Jesus Christ. Am I Jesus? Like, I must be Jesus Christ. Am I something between am I Jesus Christ or I must be Jesus Christ? You know what I mean? Those thoughts in my head. You know what I mean? And it was like, oh no, man, this is fucked up. You know what I mean? As soon as I started to put that together, I was just like, oh no. You know what I mean? This isn't good. You know what I mean? This is bad. You know what I mean? This is scary. This is something that's been watching me for a long time. This is creeping up on me. This is going to fuck my whole life. This is going to rule my whole life. I don't know what it was, but it was something like that. It was something like, just, I don't know. Something about it. You know what I mean? Something about just barely putting that together. Like this can't be good. You know what I mean? I can't remember. I can't convey it to you perfectly, but I could just tell you that the thought of it was just like, oh, hell no. You know what I mean? It was just, oh, hell no. You know what I mean? Like, oh, fucking hell no. This is like, nothing was more scary than for me to just barely put that together in my mind and be like, I think that I must be Jesus Christ. This is fucking crazy. You know, like I'm fucked. You know what I mean? Like this is just not good. You know what I mean? Just something about it was just, oh hell no, oh hell no, oh hell no. And either way, it so, but as far as, that's basically explaining to you how I eventually came to understand the hills have eyes. And it seems so obvious, like, we've been watching you for so long, you know what I mean? Then why else would we be watching you for so long? You know what I mean? Like, obviously we're talking about you. Obviously we're saying that we've been watching you forever. What else makes sense? Can you even put anything else together? And the problem is that I think it was just too crazy to think about it. But then in addition to that, the song Impaler by the Acacia Strain, which was, it was about my girlfriend. When I was in jail for a year, my girlfriend, she became a bail bondsman. She went to work for the mayor. She married a lawyer for about a month. She was in a relationship with an MMA fighter. She, everything she did had something subconsciously to do with the fact that she was disturbed by me being locked up, and she couldn't do anything about it. She probably didn't even understand that. It took me a while to figure that out. But one of the things that happened to her was she wound up really seriously addicted to pills. You know what I mean? Like bad, And she really never, I think she's doing a little better now, but either way, that's what happened. And so it just, everything got fucked up. And then eventually I basically had to give up on the relationship because it just wasn't a good situation. That was a big part of it. But that song Impaler is about that. She shouldn't be walking in her condition. There was a point in time in which she was over at my house and she put so many fucking hydrocodone pills in her mouth and then opened her mouth and it was just full of hydrocodone pills. Just full of it. You know what I mean? Like as if she had just taken a bunch of candy and put it in her fucking mouth. Like a bunch of Tic Tacs. Like, look at this. You know what I mean? It was like, holy shit. You know what I mean? It was a ridiculous number. It was an absolutely ridiculous number. Nobody should ever be able... Her tolerance must have been so fucking high because it was hard to even tell that she was that fucked up. And so the song The Impaler by the Acacia Strain is essentially saying, that we're watching your girlfriend and she's fucked up on pills. She can't even walk. And just, I don't know. All that shit came straight out of Alex Jones' voicemail. You know what I mean? So that's why I think there's a big reason for why they keep making me feel Alex Jones. Like I'm being molested by Alex Jones' jealousy and Alex Jones, like, just shit like that. You know what I mean? Like in my own mind. You know what I mean? All the time. It's unbelievable. You know what I mean? And I think part of it is to say, well, because the average person will clap and say, yay, the bad conspiracy theorists who said we can't eat pizza. Like, cheeseburgers. This is how fucking people think. You know what I mean? Stuff cheeseburgers in their mouth and say, you shouldn't ever question the government. You know what I mean? That's the level of ignorance. Like, cheeseburgers, yeah. Football, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, most of you motherfuckers are straight up fucking morons. And it's beyond, like, you're a disease. You're willfully ignorant. It's not just you're ignorant, you're willfully ignorant. And the point of what I'm saying is just that, anyways. But yeah, they will. They'll say yes. They'll say yay. You know what I mean? And they'll say that because, for one, they cannot like freedom. They cannot bring themselves to say, freedom, yes, I love it. For one, they don't even know what it looks like. So if you showed it to them and said, this is what freedom looks like, they're going to reject it and be pissed off and storm away and say, because the average person wants to vote for welfare. I mean, they want to vote for health care, free health care, Medicaid, Social Security. Don't touch Social Security, they want to pay for other people's shit. They want to pay for somebody else's retirement plan. They want to pay for somebody else's kid to go to school. They want to pay for somebody else's health care. They want to pay for all this shit. It's ridiculous, man. It's like, oh, well, that's the charitable thing to do. No, it's not. We didn't say you can't contribute to a fucking charity. Nowhere in the Constitution does it say you can't not contribute to a charity. You know what I mean? It doesn't say that. You know what I mean? Obviously, you can do that. So if you want to take your money and put it in there, just go ahead and do it, man. But what you want to do is vote for somebody else's money to go into somebody else's health care. You know what I mean? You want that. You know what I mean? Even though it becomes a boondoggle, even though it literally disrupts the economy, even though that you can't even fucking do it without fucking everybody else over. It's inefficient. It wouldn't actually work. It hamstrings the entire market. You know what I mean? People in other countries go on fucking waiting lists just to go to see a fucking doctor, a quack doctor, that they have no choice over who the fuck they're even going to go see. And then they end up dead. And that's why in places like Canada, then they legalize suicide and shit, and they tell people, oh, don't get that medical treatment, just go let us kill you. You know what I mean? Because then we don't have to fuck with all the fucking bureaucracy and the shit that we actually fucked up. And this is what I'm talking about. And so the average person believes that they want this stuff. You know what I mean? Like, they really believe it. You know what I mean? And a lot of people, it's like a religion. You know what I mean? Like, you're not going to convince them. You're not going to show them the evidence and get them not to like it. Okay? They want the free shit. And a lot of people really are just desperate and they want somebody else to pay for their shit. They don't understand that if they were to live in a free society, they'd be making more money, insurance would be cheaper, all of it. Medical care would be so much cheaper you wouldn't even believe it. You know what I mean? It's just, it used to be like that. I heard Ron Paul talk about this before. About the cost of medical care at one point in American history was not that much. Everybody could have it. Everybody could, most people, even working as a salesman at a tire store, could afford like a house and a car and medical care and all that shit. That's just, the entire country has been dismantled to a large extent. At one point, people were adamantly opposed to communism. There was anti-communist propaganda that went on at the movie theaters, and we had more wealth than every single country in the world combined. By a lot. Okay? So, but what I'm saying is that people aren't going to agree with that. People aren't going to understand that's what's good for them. Especially with this many minorities in this country. Especially with this many women in positions of authority. Okay, so they're really just not going to like it. You know what I mean? And so the problem is that most of these people would sooner like to hear a story about me getting fucked over than they would to hear about, freedom or anything like that. You know what I mean? And somehow or another they get them to buy into it by screwing me over. And I think the whole logic is supposed to be, well, the British royal family. This is something I haven't spoken about either. When I was in jail in Pontotoc County, then I saw something that was like Prince William's wife walking down the stairs. This is Alex Jones is on here now. Like, he feels like he's arrived or something because he's listening to this. So this is where he's at. He's on my phone and now he's arrived because he's listening to this. Because that's how he thinks he's arrived. But the point of the story is just that I looked up and I saw this woman walking down. It was Prince William's wife. She looked like a skeleton. She was like, here I am. It was like a skeleton walking down. I didn't visually see it, but I just kind of saw it in my mind's eye. And I was like, God damn, what the hell was that? But that's what the point of it is. That's why she has cancer. That's why her father-in-law has cancer. Probably this is working on Prince William and Prince Harry as well. I don't know why it bothers them to see me go through this. But for some reason it does. I think they may have shaped my personality into something that's more palatable to people like that. Because before all this stuff started, all I did was watch Fox News all day, every day. And I actually wasn't that interested in screwing them over. And I put something in my notes about giving the British royal family some money. And I wasn't actually wanting to screw them over. As I saw it, they weren't entitled to a huge sum of money, but they weren't really signed up for punishment or anything like that because they had just been born into that situation. It was more obvious with them than anyone else. You know what I mean? So, but either way, maybe I have no idea. That's supposedly what's going on, based on what I can determine. It's got to be something like that, So, this is like what they did in Egypt, It's just, this day has gotten so old. Earlier, I was in a little bit of a better mood, and I was about to I ordered these fidget toys, and then as soon as I got done, they go, people smarter than you, or something. I was like, what? Like, that doesn't even make any sense. Somebody smarter than me? Like, where does smarter than me figure into this fidget toy, And it was just like, I think it kind of warped my mind a little bit, and it was just like, oh yeah, it's because, see, here's the whole thing, and this is probably not an indication that I'm correct, that this is about women, but this is probably an indication that, they're playing into that notion that it's about women. Jesus Christ, Alex Jones is just on this shit. Like, this is going to be all about Alex Jones from now on. You know what I mean? It's going to be all about Alex Jones. Like, nothing's more important than what Alex Jones wants. You know what I mean? That's like, somehow he gets on these devices and like, it's going to be all about Alex Jones. You know what I mean? That's so frustrating to me, man. Like, it really has to be all about Alex Jones. You know what I mean? Like, Alex Jones feels like he's arrived and like now he's dangerous. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, you know what I mean? Like he's arrived in life. Like, cause he heard about that. Like, you know what I mean? Like, he's convinced himself he's the tip of the spear. Like, he's a real journalist. And now he's like dangerous. Like, I've arrived. Like, I heard that. You know what I mean? Like, like he can't be any better than that. You know what I mean? Like, I made a mistake. I was too nice to him. And sometimes in life, you can be too nice to someone. You know what I mean? And it'll be like a mistake that you can never live down. Like, some people are just like losers. Like, somebody like, you go by their desk and you talk to them a couple times, then they want to stand by your desk and never fucking leave. It's like, holy shit, dude. Like, is this going to be the mistake that I can't fucking live down? Like, I was nice to you twice, bro. I can't even fucking get, like, that's like what? You know what I'm saying? Like, is this going to be like that? You know what I mean? It's like, that's what it's like. You know what I mean? And essentially it's probably is like that. Because Alex Jones, I mean, I catch him on my fucking devices all the time. You know what I mean? And it was much more like, oh, we're stalking all the women in your life. And like I think it became normalized because Alex Jones was just going to do that all the time. Like, he can't measure up. You know what I mean? I said something one time in a voicemail about my dad, and then he talked about his dad forever. My dad this, my dad this, my dad this, my dad this. Like, that motherfucker's actually dangerous. You know what I mean? Like he needs to outdo you. He's actually a dangerous person. You know what I mean? Like, he's a criminal. You know what I mean? He's actually just a criminal. He's like a criminal CIA entity piece of shit. Like, he's signed straight the fuck up. He's fucking with Stratford CIA trash. His wife is Jewish. That's all he does is fuck with Jewish people. I saw a documentary about Alex Jones years ago, and it was something like they were running some kind of, like, I think it was like a hallucinogenics were being used in experimentation, and the owner of the company that he worked for was responsible for this kind of thing. Like, there's a lot of really shady shit about Alex Jones, and dude, he is a real fraud. You know what I mean? Like, he's a real fucking fraud. I guess I'm just going to be talking about Alex Jones from now on. Seriously, this is fucking old, dude. Like, Alex Jones, is this enough, dude? Like, you're just gonna live on my shit now? Like, for real, this is just, I'm just gonna be talking about you all the time now? Like, this is just gonna be it? This is gonna be your life? You know what I'm saying? Because for real, I know that it's like this. Like, I know I made a mistake and showed you anything, and now I'm never gonna live it down. You know what I mean? It's just the biggest mistake. Like, being nice to you was the biggest mistake I ever made. Sometimes being nice to somebody can be the biggest mistake you can ever make. You're a pure example of that. Oh my God, I'm so tired of it.